Welcome to the Dynasty Football Key. Unlock success in every episode, talking NFL fantasy football year round. Like and subscribe to stay ahead of the game. I really appreciate you guys coming back. On the last episode, I mentioned we were going to do a review of ADP for one quarterback and Superflex startups and rookie drafts. So let's get into it. Shout out to Dynasty Daddy. I've been using this for a lot of different things, but here today we've got ADP across 14,000 real drafts. And on this view, you can actually see the trends of how players are rising up the boards. And green means they've really risen up the boards. And that's because rookies were just recently added to My Fantasy Football League, which is a website that just converted over to the 2024 season. Sleeper added rookies at the start of the year, but it's still only about 40 days that they've had it in there. So that's why the rookies are all listed here in green. And you can see that right off the bat, you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. slotted in as the sixth highest ranked player in all of fantasy football. And there's definitely room for him to climb. I could see him getting ahead of Bijan Robinson. I actually think it will be a guarantee in the years ahead because running backs just have a shorter career span than wide receivers do. So that'll definitely flip at some point as long as Marvin Harrison hits as well as we think he can. And you don't see the first rookie go or the next rookie go until Malik Neighbors at the 204. And then we see Brock Bowers. He's considered the tight end 2. And after that, we've got Rome Odunze in the 3rd round. And then it's not until the 4th round that you have the next rookie, Caleb Williams. And then in the 5th round, you've got a little bit of a run with Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, Drake May. And after that, in the 6th round, we've got Xavier Worthy, Jaden Daniels, Keon Coleman. In the 7th round, we've got Jonathan Brooks and Adonai Mitchell. And there's a gap between the 7th to 9th round. There's no rookies here in the 8th. So the 9th round, you'll see Blake Corum go first on the left side, Braylon Allen, Trey Benson, and then you've got Jatavian Sanders, second tight end in this class, go. I'll scroll down here so you can see a little bit more of this second half of the draft, just how some of these guys are grouped. But I can already see that at round 16 and beyond, I only really want to draft rookies for the upside because none of the players that are currently there are players that you'll be able to get more value from in a dynasty trade. So I probably take a shot on the rookie upside and see what we can get from there. So I want to go and actually look at the tiers in this range. I could just flip over to the tiers and you'll see just in general, take a zoom out from just the rookie perspective, but look at all of the players here. You've got the top 3 being Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, followed by Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I'll just clarify that the tiers, every time you see the color change, that is when we're considered to be in a new tier. So this first red tier is considered a big 3. If you've got one of those top 3 picks, you're really feeling good. I feel great about Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, as we should for anyone in the first round. But I understand these other 3 receivers have had a prototypical size coming into the NFL as prospects, whereas Amon-Ra St. Brown, a lot of people did not believe in him, even when he was producing in his first season. And it took a lot of consistent production for him to eventually get vaulted this high. After that, we do have Bijan and Marvin Harrison Jr. in a tier together. So that really does show that people can take your pick 50-50 on who they want between these guys. When I'm building a team, I'd rather build with a wide receiver just for the longevity of the position. Here in this next tier of 3 guys, you've got Brees Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, very young players. I would say Bijan, Brees, and Jahmyr Gibbs are the only 3 running backs that I feel very confident in having on my team right now. But after that, Christian McCaffrey, he is still a first rounder, but he's the oldest player in this first round tier. And he'll only continue to fall down this tier. But if you're trying to build a win now roster, he is one of the best running backs to have on a per game basis. He's outscoring everybody. After that, in the same tier is Garrett Wilson and the first quarterback, Josh Allen, who for years in a row has been the #1 quarterback and #1 fantasy scorer since quarterbacks score the most points. After that, we've got Sam Laporta, the first tight end, to get that positional advantage of tight end. And we've got him in the tier with A.J. Brown, Mahomes, McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen. All 6 of those are in a tier together. So we understand why Mahomes is considered in a similar tier as Josh Allen, because Mahomes is the best quarterback we've seen in ever, maybe. If you want to go ahead and put him there, I'm not going to say anything. So you do have like a combination of guys that may be various ages, but the production is there and we can count on them. After that, it's a really big tier in the rest of the second round of Malik Neighbors, Chris Olave, CJ Stroud, Brock Bowers, Jonathan Taylor, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, Lamar Jackson. That's a really big tier. So if you have the 101, you end up with the best player, and you're maybe someone in that other big tier falls to you outside of this Waddle tier. But still, from that end of the second round, 212, all the way through the 405 is a massive tier of really just take whoever you like in that range. And you can see some of these other tiers as we go down. And for me, I wanted to see, how does this shake up with, or how does this validate what I was saying about that round 16? Yep, here the 16th round, it's just a big tier all the way down to the bottom, even worse from round 19 and beyond. But I would say that round 16 and beyond, I'm just going to take rookies for that upside. Yeah, it's really just a bunch of tiers. So when it comes to trading, you can absolutely look at something like this, figure out if you think you can trade back into the next round and get something on top to be able to still get a player that is considered within the same tier while getting a bonus on top of what you're giving away there. So I will go ahead and drop this down to just the rookies. Let's take a look at one quarterback, rookies only. Okay. So one quarterback, rookies only. What do we got here? So Marvin Harrison Jr., he's a consensus rookie 1. After that, there's a big 3 of Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, Rome Odunze. And even though here it says there's a 1-person tier at the 105, I would consider from the 105 to the 112, I would consider that all to be one big tier. You can take Caleb Williams based on need, or if you really just believe in the upside. We're going to get landing spots, and I think there's going to be one of these players in that tier who will get a landing spot that will kind of push the ADP up ahead of Caleb Williams. And in the second round, we see Adonai Mitchell, Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, Trey Benson, Jatavius Sanders as a mini 5 tier there. And so that's three running backs that people really seem to believe in. That's running back 2 through 4. Jonathan Brooks was in that first round. But then 206 through 210 is considered another tier. Audric Estime, Will Shipley, Lab McConkey, JJ McCarthy, Xavier Leggett. And after that, it does seem to be another round of, let's see where some of this draft capital is. I would say this Jace McClellan pick is maybe an error because I have not seen him go that high at any point. And I would think maybe you could just replace McClellan with Bucky Irving from the drafts I've been seeing. He's been going in that spot where Jace McClellan has been going, and I would think he's actually in the tiers ahead of that tier. That's just, I guess, my personal opinion. But really, it is a big tier in that third round. And there are some guys in the fourth round I see here that, like a Ricky Parasol, Jalen Wright. There's guys in here I could see being a little bit higher. This will adjust more and more as more drafts are going on. So let's take a look at the Superflex version of these tiers. So I will get a good idea of how the rookies are looking on both sides of 1 QB and Superflex. This again is the Superflex version. Okay, so there's a big two. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., followed by Drake May in his own tier, considered, essentially he's being considered as a consensus 103. I've been seeing a little bit all over the place. However, my personal opinion is Drake May is really good and is not a quarterback we want to sleep on. If you're worried about future draft classes, I would go ahead and secure some quarterbacks in this year's draft. I've done videos on the 2025 class as well as the 2026 to 2027 classes, which are too early, of course. However, this current class in 2024 at quarterback seems to be one of the best we've had in quite some time. At the 104 through 107, that's a tier of its own. And I've seen this since December. I could tell that there's always been a top 7 tier. And after that, we're going to need draft capital and landing spots. The combine will help as well. But once we get the actual draft landing spots, I think that is where we may see the tier expand beyond the 107. Maybe there's someone who's a consensus 108 in the near future after these drafts. But it goes from the 108 to the 112. Brian Thomas Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Troy Franklin, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. Kind of lumped in 3 quarterbacks there. So I could see if any of those 3 quarterbacks do not get drafted in the first round, we could see them sliding really far back, potentially into the third round, depending on where they get drafted. Because in the second round, we've got a lot of the other bigger names at wide receiver and running back. It's almost a full round worth of a tier. And the third round is almost another tier of itself, and same with the fourth round. So going to be interesting. Going to be interesting how these drafts pan out. We got the combine coming up next week. So that will be a really good piece of information that'll help us make some decisions going forward. And let's zoom out again to how Superflex drafts may be turning out in startups. So we will do Superflex startup ADP data. All right. And let's start with the trends. Just since I We were just looking at the rookies. So you can see Caleb Williams is the only rookie that we've got in the first round, but really it's back to back with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 112, 201 turn. Yeah, it's really cool to see where these players are landing. It's a big wait until the third round before Drake May, Malik Neighbors, and Jaden Daniels go. And they really went back to back to back. So we'll see how much of a tier Drake May is in all by himself once it's all said and done. I do believe in him over taking the receiver, but Malik Neighbors really has looked great. So I understand it. And then Brock Bowers, he's in the fourth round, kind of by himself compared to the other rookies, followed by Roma Dunze a full round later. That's interesting. I've seen just on mocks of the rookies alone, they've flipped, almost every other draft. But it looks like in general, people believe in Brock Bowers a lot more. And it takes all the way until the 6'11 for Brian Thomas Jr. to go, but not too far after that is J.J. McCarthy. Then later in the seventh round is Troy Franklin and Michael Penix Jr. Another big gap where no rookie goes in the eighth round, and it's the ninth round until we see Bo Nix. Then the 10th round for Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman. Then the 11th round for another group of these guys. It's kind of just, every round from then on is, kind of one or two rookies that go. A little gap here in the 15th round. But I would say, again, just with the names I'm seeing, I might start going after rookies here in the 15th round and lower. So let's look at the trends, or let's look at the tiers. We were just looking at the trends. Let's look at the tiers. Okay. So you've got a big four quarterback. CJ Stroud, wow, is in there at the top four. Personally, from a dynasty perspective, with the youth that he has, it makes sense that he's all the way up here. You'll have CJ Stroud as a quarterback for a long time if he can keep up what he did in his rookie of the year season. However, Lamar Jackson likely outscores CJ Stroud as long as he's healthy. We'll see how long Lamar can keep running at a high level. I believe in him as a passer. I'm sure they'll keep surrounding him with weapons. But there's a big age gap, honestly. Time to start has really gone by. It's crazy that Lamar's been in the league as long as he has been at this point. But if he does start losing that speed, then I can see why folks are going to CJ Stroud just for some of that security. Less likely he's getting injured and things like that. And look at these tiers. I think in this first round, if you can walk away with a quarterback, you're in good shape. Does seem to be a drop off after maybe the seventh round is when it starts to get a little bit dicier in the quarterback range. And after that, it's really just a big tier from the middle of round 7 to round 10. Let's scroll down. Yeah, a lot of huge tiers that you can trade back into. I really like the idea of just, if you're going to start trading back, once you get out of I'm not trading, depending on where you are, wherever your initial draft slot is, it's tough to want to trade out of this first round. There's just some really strong tiers early on. But once you get into round 5, it starts to get to a point where you could trade back and get some similar players in the tiers below, especially since there's a lot of rookies down here that we don't know their full upside. But absolutely, when you get to the 12th round, it's just a massive tier below there. And yeah, but it does look like, again, in round 15, it's just another huge tier of players where I would just defer to the rookies in most cases and just go for the upside. The trade value will be higher with any rookie you take over any of the veteran players that you select in this range. And when you're in season and the injuries are happening, you'll know which of these players that are down here that you want to go after. Maybe trade a 4th round pick for one of these running backs if there's an injury and they have a chance to start or something like that. But going into the season, I'm not sure that I need to hold on to the players that are at this point in the draft. I'd rather just have the value on my roster going throughout the rest of the summer and off season. So yeah, that's really interesting to see how the ADP is shaking out. I will go back to a more familiar view one more time, since we're usually seeing this view with the color-coded view positions. And I absolutely think it's easier to tell here when it comes to like quarterbacks. Like I mentioned, it seems to be a big drop off in the 7th round. The last startable quarterback from last season was Baker Mayfield. In the 8th round, there's Will Levis. He's getting an opportunity to start. Kirk Cousins is returning from an Achilles injury. Daniel Jones had a season-ending injury. There is a Bo Nix in this range, so it just depends on if he gets the draft capital. But again, he will go much higher after that. Matthew Stafford was only temporarily injured for a quick moment and was able to return, but the age is not on his side. So I'm more confident in players from round 5 up when it comes to quarterback. The rest of the positions, it just depends on how you're building your roster. But yeah, really interesting exercise to go through. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you got any other ideas for some videos. Happy to see what I can do, try to do some research and do what we can to help you guys win your leagues this 2024 season. But that was a look at a 1 quarterback and Superflex ADP. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.